Okay, good morning. So last week you had Reverend Joel and the power of thought. This week we are doing the power of prayer. Next week Tony is doing the power of faith, and then although it's been incorrectly announced, I will be doing Mother's Day with the power of love. So one of the things that um, one of the things that I've been doing lately, I've been working with the end in mind so much that I start from the back of things. So today, for this purpose, because it's almost like it's the only thing that has to be considered in this chapter. And on page 154, the single last line of the textbook in that chapter says, "Our prayer is answered before it is uttered." Our prayer is answered before it is uttered. How is that possible? How is that even possible? And it's only possible if you believe me, Ernest Holmes, and all of the teachers and practitioners here when we tell you that there is only now and that there's only one. If you are buying into, because you have to choose to believe it, you have to choose to subscribe to the idea. If you subscribe to the idea that there's only one, then there is also only now. So if this is true, then anything you think you want must already exist. Any condition that you think you want to experience must already exist. Any heart's desire at all, in some form, it exists somewhere on some plane, even though it appears behind the veil. And that veil is not something I can describe, because for each of us, that veil appears in different ways. For some of us, that veil of which I speak is the veil of doubt. For some, it's the veil of fear. For some, it's the veil of disbelief. But truth be told, if you can throw off the any temptation of limitation, if you can cast that off and buy into there's only one and there's only now, then that anything that's in your heart's desire, which is right here in you, that as long as you believe it, it is available. Now it sounds big. It sounds almost unbelievable. But the fact remains, and I've quoted him many times in the past, the Reverend Dr. Tom Johnson said, "We learn how to treat or pray so that we don't have to treat or pray." Now, Holmes says it very clearly, and I want to get over this or handle this piece, because it says in the beginning, now we're jumping to the first page in the chapter, "Are prayers and treatments identical?" And the answer to this question is yes and no. If when one prays, his prayer is a recognition of Spirit's omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence, and a realization of humans' unity with Spirit, then their prayer is a spiritual treatment. So if you can, throw off the division between prayer and treatment, or prayer treatment or affirmative prayer. Just stop thinking and that it's different, at least in our world. Now, outside of our world, there's a world, most definitely, where prayer and treatment are far from the same thing. There is a world out there where if you were to speak about the oneness of all life, most definitely it would be seen as arrogant, and it would be seen as almost I can't get the word, but it would, let's just call it arrogant at the moment. But that's not who we are. I'm not speaking to that crowd. I'm speaking to you. And so, what I know about us here in Science of Mind and in metaphysical realm, we believe in the oneness of all life. And so, if we believe in that, then it moves us to the next place. If we are one with all that is, are you and I not a full, are we not worthy of the full measure of what is available? Are you not worthy? You got to get what I'm saying to you. The full inheritance of the all that is. Imagine yourself as the only one receiving that good. Now, then Gary's the only one, and Paul's the only one, and Tamika's the only one, because it avails itself, and all it requires is your yes. It requires your yes. It requires your acceptance. It requires your allowance. It requires you believing that you are a child of the beloved one. Yes? Can I get a yes in this? Because this is the truth. This is the truth. So prayer is not something we do, it's who you are. Prayer is the way you are. Prayer is your thinking and your being. So, if you were busy pondering fear, then fear becomes the prayer. If you were busy pondering, if you are for whatever reason, let's say you just have you live in the world of you're suspicious. If that is your beingness, then what happens is you are going to attract into your world according to you feeling suspicious. If you're fearful, you're going to attract according to fear. If you are doubtful of your divine birthright, you're going to attract according to that doubt. I'm making this as simple as I can. Am I clear? And if I'm not clear, I want you to put a question in the chat. The only difference between somebody, when you look at somebody, you go, oh, actually, there's a great little story from The Reluctant Messiah, Richard Bach. Oh, gazillion years ago. Great little book. Great little book. I think it's from this. Bill will correct me if I'm wrong, because you'll remember this. And so what happens, there's this stream, and there's these little beings that live in the bottom of the stream, and they live by holding on to the rocks. And they're constantly gripping, and the water is rushing by, and their entire life is about holding on to what they know. Excuse me, one second. Their entire life is about holding on to what they know. So they're exhausted by the gripping, but that's what they know. It keeps them safe, they think. And what happens is one of these little creatures living on the side the side of the stream says, I think I'm gonna let go. And all the people around, no, you can't let go. You'll be bumped and bruised and dragged over the rocks, and no, you can't do that. And he says, no, I think I want to try it. I think I want to let go. And he chooses to let go. And you know what happens? He gets bumped. He gets bruised. And then what happens? He floats. And he rises up to the top of the stream. And he's carried downstream. And then in the community that's been watching him, they watch him float by and they go, oh, look, it's the one. And they point to him as if he's a miracle. when all he did was let go. You catching that? We hold on out of fear and doubt. And I don't know about you, especially with what's gone this past year. Have we not proven that we can rise above? Have we not proven that we can handle life? Some of you have been impacted in larger ways than others. Are you not still here? Can you see that the grip, the white knuckle gripping that we do is actually what causes us pain? That that holding on for dear life. That's where the pain comes from, folks. The pressure that sometimes we think where life is coming in upon us, in truth, the pressure is because we're holding back our good because we're not believing in ourselves. So we're literally keeping it at bay with an unconscious effort because we don't recognize it as available to us. If you could believe what I'm saying, you would be so excited that you would go out and you would throw off your doubts. You would throw it off. And you would take a risk and you would make plans. And you would simply not allow that conditioned part of you, because there is us, there's you and I, as we were born into this body temple, and then we're in this teaching and we say we're in agreement, but in truth, you are impacted. There is the world that is telling you to be afraid. There is the world that's telling you to be sequestered. There's world telling you it's hard. It's hard. You don't have the right intelligence, or you're not in a relationship, or you don't have enough money, or you don't live in the right place. There are a lot of messages. But the truth is, we don't have to subscribe. You and I do not have to subscribe. We get to choose. Ernest Holmes says, prayers which are effective, no matter whose prayers they may be, are effective because they embody certain universal principles, which, when understood, can be consciously used. So let's go back to the Reverend Dr. Tom Johnson. We learn how to treat so we don't have to treat. Treatment impacts the being. Treatment expands consciousness. I don't know about you, but I don't want to have to stop, drop, and treat every time a moment comes up of something like that. I just want to be it. I want to be walking in this space all the time. And I want to, and I've thought a lot about this. I don't want to have the Michelle Wadley, born of certain parents in Jersey City Christ Hospital, and Michelle as the ministers. I don't want as the minister. I don't want to do that. I want to do everything I can to consistently have one life expression. So when you know me because of my spiritual lessons, but you also know me as the cut up that wants to sing or out of tune, out loud, unexpectedly. That there's only one being. And that being is so plugged into spirit that I can produce wildly, and then sometimes I have impact in my life from things that I have to deal with. But one life expression. So if I'm using prayer treatment, if I'm in that consciousness of prayer, there's nowhere for me to go to get it, except there's a couple of things, and it's not necessarily in this chapter, but I want to make sure that I strike this point. There are times when you and I will have an experience of physical ailment, an emotional thing, a relationship that we're struggling with. I know that you're smart and you're capable, but if you if you can't seem to get out of your own way, that's when we call a practitioner, because a practitioner has trained to be objective. I can listen to you. Thank you, Donald. I can listen to you, and while you're telling me your issue, I am already converting it in my listening. You tell me about a diagnosis from the doctor, but as it's entering my thinking and my listening, I'm already knowing your perfection. So that's why this community is so incredibly important, because we are individuals who believe in the highest. It's the namaste experience. The presence of God, the beloved one in me salutes the beloved one in you. I'm putting my own words in there because I like those words. So if I'm doing that, then then what then my consciousness is lending itself toward you. And sometimes we get stubborn. We think, oh, I got to do it on my own. I got to do it. And some of you, and there's been a lot of conversation in here about, not in here, but other conversations I have in classes, that we haven't spoken enough about the relationship of a practitioner. So here on the call right now, there's Dave Schwartz, Neil, Dawn Lee, Marilyn Truchell. I'm looking. I know Tony's here. Who else? Patricia. I guess that's about it for today. And Brian Jude and myself. So we practitioners in science of mind are a profession. Yes. And if you haven't heard that enough from me, then shame on me. They train to get from a new student to a trained licensed practitioner is no less than 4 years. I want you to catch that. 4 years of study. That's as much as you would spend to get a degree. That's as much time as someone would spend to get a degree. And these people have learned to understand the science of mind and its applications, and they have done their own work, and they have done a lot of forgiveness work, and they've done a lot of self-realization. So in that, they are constantly working to kind of slowly rise above the conditions of effect. So we call a practitioner because a practitioner has the ability to plug into spirit while aligning with you. Dentists do not pull out their own teeth. I remember hearing that a long time ago. I don't know, maybe somebody did. Maybe somebody did. So even though you are by the teaching, according to Holmes, you are a practitioner, because we are practitioners of the teaching. But a licensed practitioner is one who has invested 4 years and a lot of hours and money. Okay? So when you're not well, call a practitioner. Are you going to have to pay them? Yeah. Get over it. Get over it. Because they have value. They bring study. You don't go to the doctor and say, hey, you're a really nice guy. Can you do this for me for free? You don't go to a counselor and say, hey, I heard a lot about you and I hear that you're really good at what you're doing. Can you do it for free? You don't go to a car mechanic and say, car's not working. I don't have any money. Can you fix my car for free? Nobody does those things. But for some reason, we have not in this movement, unfortunately, we have not raised up the reverence for practitioners in the way that I believe we should. See, I'm a believer in practitioners. I love training them. I love working with them. And when you're in a room with just practitioners or in a room with ministers, they're kind of equal in that way. The consciousness in the room is palpable, right? Practitioners, right? You know it when we're there because we're not playing around with less than. You've heard me say this before. We don't collude with less than, we collaborate with possibility. So we're not sitting there. We don't get together and exchange woe is me. We don't do it. Now we will listen to each other if each other's heart needs to be listened to, but prayer practitioners are the backbone of this center, of this movement. We have thousands of them around the world. We have plenty of them here, and I'm telling you that they are beautiful, valuable people. And if finances are a struggle, they'll work with you, and they'll also treat for your prosperity consciousness. But as the founder of this movement, as this of the center, not the movement, but as the founder of this center, I ask you to honor them and to use them, because this whole entire book, this whole entire book is about working in consciousness. And so in order to engage in that way, they do that with you and for you. They will walk, they will walk that path with you. Can I get an amen? And if you don't know who they are, and practitioners right now, put your names and phone numbers in there. And like Marilyn Trussell, not everybody wants always to work with people, but Marilyn Trussell has prayed for my dog. You have a thing with one of your animals, call Marilyn Trussell, because that's her service. That's her service. That's what she does. She wants to be there for the animal kingdom. Okay. There is a place in us which lies open to the infinite, but when the Spirit brings its gift by pouring itself through us, it can give only to us what we take. Some of you have been here for a short time, some of you have been here for years. My dream for you is that the the expansion of your yes and your acceptance has grown. That's what I'm hoping for you. I'm hoping that you're willing to embrace and allow for greater good than you did a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 years ago, whatever it is. Because that relationship and that relationship is critical, and to make it not outside of you. It's not outside. Folks, we have never, ever dealt with an old white man with a beard in the sky. That has never, ever, ever been our calling. The God of which I speak is you. The God of which I speak is Patricia and Judy and Donald and Alyssa. The God of which I speak is so available that you can't separate it because it lives at a cellular level. The only difference, what to activate it, you just have to turn to it. To activate it, you have to call it forth. Presence as me, show in my life. Presence as me, know me as intelligence. Presence as me, know me as love. So that you're integrating. You're integrating. Because I got to be honest with you, I don't personally want to be involved in a religion where the power and the presence is outside of me. I don't. I want it to be my breath. Imagine walking in the consciousness that spirit is your breath, that every breath you take is your good. Every breath you take is your happiness. Can you can you get a sense of what it would be like if you walked in the consciousness of love and possibility every moment? of every day, what would change? Think about it right now. What would change? And I'm even going to encourage you. What would change in your life if you were constantly present in that presence? And offer that in the chat. Yeah, Tony says everything, and very specifically, what would begin to change if you got that the the full the fullest measure of good is constantly available to you. Anybody else? Yeah, freedom, prosperity, health, creative self-expression, absolutely. And we don't have to go to get these things. Now, I'll never condemn, not for a second. Yes, yes, I love these things. Yes, thank you. This doesn't mean that I want to be clear, because this is where somebody loves to kind of question. I'm not telling you never to go to a doctor. That's not the thing. Go to a doctor. Take care of yourself. Do what you have to do, because you're only always going to demonstrate to the level of your belief anyway. So you take care of yourself according to your consciousness. How do you know? You know you. You know you better than anybody else. Than anybody else. When we become conscious of our oneness with universal good, I love that name for it. Beliefs in evil, sin, sickness, limitation, and death tend to disappear. So when you and I are reveling in possibility, there's not enough room for doubt and fear. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? Wouldn't it be a wonderful thing if we didn't have enough room or enough time in the day to doubt, enough time in the day to fear, that you're so busy being happy that you can't possibly be jealous or envious or any of those things that limit our experience. Yes, fearless, unstoppable, and fearless. What a beautiful thing that would be. Do some of us have things that are in the way? Yes, but none of them are such that you can't rise above them. None of them. Not none of them. Are we at the mercy of our conditions? I wish I could unmute you quickly enough to hear you say, hell no. Just hell no. No. And yet, to the degree that we grow. So if some of you are listening to me and thinking, oh, what is she talking about? I'm stuck. I'm not feeling good. I don't have enough money. I get it. Just stay with the program. Stay with the program. Stay in the book. Stay on Sundays. Stay working with the practitioners. Get into classes, because all of that constantly chips away and gets rid of it just gets rid of all the things that are in the way. And I'm telling you, and I'll tell you again, in addition to a practitioner, I have 4 prayer partners. 4. So every week, I know I can only get so far before running into one of my prayer partners. So, and I'm gonna give you one other thing to do. I'm gonna start blending together. I'm gonna start blending together a little bit of my hypnosis training with my prayer training, with my science of mind training. And that's because I know it's the same darn thing. It's the same thing. I'm going to give you all an assignment. Almost everybody, our beloved Eulith might be the only one who doesn't. Does everybody have some kind of phone or recording device, some kind, that on there will be an app that you can record on? Almost all of you have something. This is what I want you to do. And I've given this to my creative mind and success class, which I got to tell you, we've been having a blast with tiny little classes, two classes of only three people each, but it's so yummy. It's so yummy. And so I want you to do, take your phone and I want you to record into your phone in your voice a message that you want to hear on a regular basis. It could be specific to success. It could be specific to self love. It could be specific to abundance, health. I think I said that twice. That's because there's nothing more important. It could be to for your career. And don't worry about form. Don't get like, how do I do this? Don't worry about that. Just go on the phone and declare something like this. I, Michelle, am now ready to accept my good and my greater good. I'm willing to allow the flow of good and love and health and possibility to move up through me. I am willing to accept a life that is glorious and joy filled with relationships that are glorious and joy filled. You get the message? You word it for you and use it every single night right before you go to sleep. Try to make it a little bit longer so that it almost it almost pulls you into sleep a little bit. Use it every night. Prayer and hypnosis are the same thing. It sets off the same bells and whistles. I wouldn't guide you. I wouldn't misguide you. I wouldn't, I promise. But your brain is receptive, and it's most receptive at night before you go to sleep and in the morning just after you wake up. So if I were you, and often I do, and unless my grandchildren or my husband are waking me up, I listen to it both times. You will feel amazing by listening to your message from you to you. Back in the day, we're talking 30, 40 years ago, before cell phones and all these devices. Can you remember tape recorders? And they had the tapes that would, um, they were unending tapes. I don't remember what they were called. And we had under pillow speakers. Anybody remember that back in the day? And we would put these under pillow speakers under our pillows, and we would record messages and we would listen to them at night. Because your brain is endless loop cassette tapes. Yes, thank you. Your brain is receptive. So what is it receptive to? See, that's the key. So when you raise your awareness and when you give it messages of love and hope and possibility and prosperity, you become more receptive in the outer world. You get that? So what we carry here attracts to us. So if I'm believing in myself and declaring health and wholeness, then I'm going to attract health and wholeness. If I'm believing and affirming every night that I am creative and abundant, and that I even prosper from that, and I write that to myself, then I'm going to attract that to myself. Everybody clear? So what I'm leaving you with today is stay the course. Stay in the book. Use a practitioner. And you when you need to. And so, by the way, well, I won't go down that road. And and use your own voice to affirm yourself and use it every night. Yes? Yes? Good? Good. Then let me treat for each one of us. So I know right now there's a power and a presence and a love. It is grand, it is glorious. It is who I am. It is who you are. There is no inside or outside, it just is. There is only now, there is only here, there is only this moment of beautiful expression, and I declare for each individual listening, for each individual listening, now or later, that your heart's desire, your dreams are met, received, and acted upon by the consciousness of the all power, all knowing, all creative essence of good that flows in, through, and as each one of us of every moment of every day. And that through our agreement and our allowance and our acceptance, it is activated. With our yes, it is activated. Let us have a full sense of this, feeling completely worthy. There is no individual listening to me now, and I want you to catch this. There is no individual who is not worthy of the full measure of good. You are worthy beyond your ideas, now and always. It is a good and beautiful thing. I trust this idea. I surrender it, and I allow it to be so, and so it is. Take a breath. Let this be your reality. And once again inside, just whisper a sweet yes of acceptance.